Representative Kinner. Representative Larson. Representative Schwartz. Okay. Representative Simpson.
Here.
Representative Stith.
Here.
Representative Walters. Chairman Nicholas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think you're all familiar with the bill, and so the kind of overriding concept here is our Constitution requires that the legislature establish the salaries for the county attorneys. We've done a range that's been found to be determined to be constitutional. The range right now is minimum of like $35 to $100,000 per salary. The state of Wyoming participates at the 50, it's lesser of 50,000 or 50%. So the ask of me here this last year at Waco was, hey, we've got counties where cost of living's higher than others. And it's a matter of attracting good people for a very important job. So with respect to the county attorneys, what this does is it still sets the compensation, it caps it at $50,000, which would be 50% of 100,000. So it caps it at $50,000 or 50% of the salary. So in Washakie County, John Worrell's probably not going to get a raise as a result of this, and he's getting paid under 100,000. So we still only reimburse whatever 40,000 for that. And then that allows the counties to go ahead and pay what they need to. The DAs is a little more complicated. There was maybe a little heartburn when I included the DAs because they knew there'd be more heartburn. The bill's harder to pass with them in. However, the chairman doesn't recall this, but he did make a comment to me about it. So I was honoring his wishes and included it. Plus, I believe strongly we ought to have a full discussion across the state anyway. So the provision on the district attorneys, you guys know better than anybody. That's why I asked us to come to this committee, is that they're basically an agency where they bring their own budget in and do their own personnel decisions. And as drafted, I don't think it works, because as drafted, the DAs instantly get a salary equal to the district court judges. And I truly believe that one needs to be discussed and modified. So I think, Mr. Chairman, I think I've spoken to almost all the members of this committee on this particular issue.
So how would you modify it?
Mr. Chairman, I know this answer is however the chairman desires.
I think it should be the desire of the drafter of the bill.
So Mr. Chairman, you guys are so much more kind in appropriations and minerals.
Mr. Chairman.
So we look on page 2, right? We're talking about district attorneys. So 91802, the new language says district attorney shall receive an annual salary equal to, district attorney may receive an annual salary up to the salary authorized for the district court judge in 51110. And I would say, comma, as, or insert some sort of qualifier as appropriated. Now, that now means you would be setting the salary for a district attorney. You don't set the salaries for Director Parfit or other directors. So it's a different, we're crossing a line there, it seems to me. So the other alternative with that, there's 3 alternatives. That is, the other one is you just stage it. And, so it's 100,000 through 2023. You go to 2030 and then you raise it to 120,000. And then, 2031, you raise it to 140 40,000? Perception of things. The other component, and this would be very interesting, is set the state contribution at 100,000 and authorize the county or counties, it just so happens each district now is one county, to kick in the difference. Now, that's a change in who the DAs would really, they give the county commissioners a little leverage over that. So there's those are three options. Or I guess the fourth is just pull them out of this bill and let me try to live up to my promise and deliver for the county attorneys.
Okay, questions for Chairman Greer? Go ahead.
Chairman Greer, so we're talking about page 2, lines 9 through 12, correct?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Simpson, correct.
And what is the current salary of district court judge?
Mr. Chairman, 160, it's 160. What's that?
165.
165. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm a little confused on line 6. The district attorney is now, his salary is 94.5. And then we threw in this new date associated with 100,000. And then we throw in another date that's immediately going to skyrocket it above 100. So can you help me with dates? And
Sure. So, Mr. Chairman, the earlier number, the 94.5, was until January 3rd, 2011. That probably could have been stricken because we're past that point in time. But after 2011 through now, so after 2011 is 100,000. Now what we're doing is through January 2nd, 2023, which is, I understand, to be the next election
very good.
cycle.
So, Mr. Chairman, we're sitting at 100 right now.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, yeah, it's authorized at 100. I don't know if you guys look at the DA's salaries, but I assume they make 100.
It's part of their budget. They present it.
So, Mr. Chairman, can you help me understand the compelling argument of why we need to eventually reach that point where they match the
There's,
district court judge?
the answer is there is no compelling argument other than we're just creating a cap that can go up to that amount.
But that's not the way the bill's written right now.
That's correct.
It literally takes them up to the 165.
Right.
So Matt, what do district court judges get?
So, Mr. Chairman, to Representative Simpson's question, when this was drafted, and I missed it in the draft, is I really didn't intend to take it up to 165. With respect to the county attorneys, the counties are going to pay that different amount. And so there's going to be an evaluation by the commissioners of need, marketplace, probably quality, those types of things.
Mr. Chairman, so under WS 51110 A2, after July 1st, 2019, a district court judge receives $160,000 a year.
And then Supreme Court's 175.
That is correct. Yep,
And then the circuit courts are 135 or 140?
145, Mr. Chairman.
So the question, would it make more sense to use the 145?
Mr. Chairman, that, yeah. Yeah, so you might, you know how this is drafting bills, right? You want to get a structure in place that you can work with. And so, I just said, well, this just hit the district court judges, but it could, even for both, if it was set at the circuit court judge level, it would be appropriate. And I don't think, I don't think that would be inappropriate for both levels, but frankly.
So, Mr. Chairman, if we look at structuring that, why don't we, on line 10, shall receive an annual salary up to 145 and just strike line 11 completely.
Yeah, we could either pick a number, 145, or we could put in up to the circuit court judge amount. Then when we increase the circuit court judge, this would automatically go up. So there would be an escalator component to it.
And so again, that was a little bit of the discussion, and I assume that Mr. Olbrich had talked with Mr. Fuller about this, because I know, in drafting, we had that discussion. Then if we're moving these other salaries, we're only having to move, one set. So that's why we went that route. There was a little ease of legislating in the future by doing that.
So Matt, I'll do a draft amendment, a proposed amendment, starting on page 2, line 10. District attorney may receive an annual salary up to the salary authorized circuit.
Mr. Chairman, let me just ask you a question based on that amendment. Would you want, if it's an up to amount, right now it's statutorily set for a district attorney at a hard amount. But a county attorney, the county commissioners for that county get to decide the up to amount. Who would get to decide the up to amount for a district attorney?
It would be,
That's why we called you up.
Yeah.
it would be in their budget that they present to the legislature.
So, Mr. Chairman, what we would say then is up to the salary paid for a circuit court judge as determined by the legislature.
I don't think we have to say that because it's automatically determined by the legislature. We set it in their budgets when they bring it.
Well, you don't do that right now, Mr. Chairman, because it's set by statute.
Right,
So,
but they bring their budget and they put their salary in their budget.
oh, they certainly do, you bet. I guess I'm just thinking, Mr. Chairman, it would be cleaner if we said as determined up to that amount as determined by the legislature. And then you could just, or even put it in the general appropriations bill. Right, or just leave it as equal to. So, Mr. Chairman, Representative.
We don't know. We'd have to look in their budget to see what they're paying their senior prosecutor.
Right, Mr. Chairman, you'd have to ask for that breakout from them. But what you would, if you did an up to amount, Mr. Chairman, what I would see is a footnote. Of these funds, the district attorney shall receive an annual salary of X.
So I'll amend the motion and just set it at the circuit court.
What, excuse me, Mr. Chairman. what was that?
Just set it at the circuit court.
Well, okay, so, Mr. Chairman, if I may, right, the Constitution says that the salary shall be established by the legislature. And so you could say that up to amount and box that in, so you're indicating, but then each year in the budget, with the budget bill, the legislature would be establishing it. I mean, we're not stepping on any constitutional toes with what Mr. Olbricht's saying.
And
Just,
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
and perhaps since the Constitution requires that we shall set the salaries, perhaps just for wording, instead of saying may receive an annual salary up to, that we phrase that as shall receive an annual salary no greater than. That way, we've got a shall, as the Constitution requires, that they shall receive a salary just no greater than the circuit court salary. And then I think it makes sense to say in such amounts as appropriated by the legislature. Whether you need that last part or not, I don't care.
I like that word better. But that means we'll be setting it every budget.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's preferable for us to set it in the budget rather than to bump them up, give them a 45% pay increase all in one go. I think that's not going to sit well with people if we bump them up to the full circuit court salary judge right away.
Mr. Chairman, I do, however, the wording is fine, but I guess I would feel better making it clear that if we have a higher number, that it is clear to the district attorneys that their budget is still subject to appropriation. And constitutionally still tied to what the legislature says their salary shall be. So just my thoughts on it.
So that ties into that. Use your language. They shall receive it as established by the legislature.
Could you repeat? Yeah. I think that's all.
Got that, man?
Mr. Chairman, I got it. The other thing too, and just a plug here, maybe, but what you are also doing with the circuit or with the district attorneys and with the county attorneys is if you ever choose to utilize that 511-110B, you've given yourself the ability through the budget bill to give judges a salary increase through the budget bill that's commensurate with state employee salary increases that year. Now, you haven't used it yet since it's come in, but then it kind of, stops the fight of needing to go in a standalone bill and change these salaries in 51110. So I think that that's part of why we did it, why Representative Greer wanted to do it this way to give you that ability as well.
Giving you guys more power.
So, can I read it back to us? What's it say as amended?
Here we go, Mr. Chairman. So page 2, starting on line 9, from and after January 2nd, 2023, each district attorney shall receive an annual salary no greater than the salary authorized for a circuit court judge in WS 51110 as determined by the legislature.
Comments from the bullpen?
Mr. Chairman, a question for Matt. From just a cleanup standpoint, can we delete a bunch of the language starting on line 4 down to line 9, since that language would really no longer apply because we'd be passing those dates? Or can we reword it a little bit to help knock ink out of the green books?
So, Mr. Chairman, Representative Walters, I think we'll still need that. You're going to leave their salary as what it is until January 1st, 2023. So you want to leave that in.
Line 4, 5, and 6 through 940. 940,000. But the other parts you need in the lower part context.
So,
Mhm.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Crago pointed this out, and I didn't quite catch this either. So we do this range, we still probably need to have a bottom end. There's not one in the statute. Yeah. which is what is done with the county attorneys. It says no less than 35 nor more than in a statute. He's absolutely right. There is no bottom end.
Mr.
You don't have to pay him anything.
Mr. Chairman, isn't the bottom end technically what they're getting paid today? Isn't that an implied bottom?
So, Mr. Chair, I would guess the bottom end right now is $100,000, but
Yeah, if we
Mr.
leave
Mr.
in the current language.
Mr. Chairman,
Page 6, the bottom end is 100,000.
Mr. Chairman, there are county attorneys who make less than 100,000 across the state.
so, Mr. Chairman, county attorneys have a range, 35 to 100. But and it's just probably because you've just set the salary in statute for DAs that there isn't a bond.
So, Mr. Chairman, Representative Greer, the Constitution doesn't require we have to have a minimum, does it? It just says you have to, I mean, I thought the Supreme Court case that addressed this like 80 years ago said if, as long as you set a cap, that's good enough.
I just think it needs to be set by the legislature. I don't think you need to put a bottom end in, but we've never had this situation before for a district attorney. It's always just been a district attorney shall receive X. Now it's not greater than X.
So, Mr. Chairman, yeah, I mean, I don't do it, but if there's not a bottom end, then the Appropriations Committee could just set 50,000 or something. That's all. Don't worry about it, but while we're hashing this out, just we'll hash it all the way out.
I would support a floor. It just, it creates assurances and stability. Without it, there's always that chance that
So
something
if
weird
we- If
happens.
we did that, we put it where it's at now. So less than 100. And so then to conform this a bit with the county attorneys, on page 3, line 15, if we put circuit court judge versus district court judge, there we are.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that's fine. Like I said, we picked a number, and that was the one. I just, with the higher number, I probably get more deference driving through certain counties than you, but I'm comfortable with that. I know Representative Walters could use some help.
Okay, any other comments? Like, anyone in the back? Come on up.
I'll just stay here, turn my head.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Jeremiah Raymond here on behalf of the Wyoming County Commissioners Association, joined by Commissioner Lee Livingston from Park County. We have not established a final position on this bill. We'll do that early next week, but historically, commissioners have supported this legislation. In fact, 2 years ago, we asked the Judiciary Committee to take it up as an interim topic. Turned out that wasn't great timing, but we do think that it is appropriate at this point in time to move the conversation forward. Many counties are having a more difficult time of finding county attorneys, and it's not just those counties that you might think where there are incredible disparities in wages, but we also have others. Weston County as an example, not that they would move to this level or perhaps even get over 100,000, but they had difficulty in finding a county attorney from within the county, and in fact had a county attorney that resided in Campbell County that got elected in Weston County and served for a couple of years, but then went to private practice and they had to look again for attorneys. So all that said, I think you'd find incredible support from the commissioners to have this flexibility where it's warranted to establish a salary higher than the current cap at $100,000.
Okay. All right. Appreciate your comments. Barry, what's your comments? Okay, so did you modify page 3? So does everyone understand how it currently reads? Do some cleanup? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd make a motion on page 2. I would move the bill.
Yeah, let's do that
Moved by Representative Walters, seconded by Representative Schwartz.
Then I'd make a motion, Mr. Chairman, on page 2, line 4, starting with, and take out through line 6, take out the until January 3rd, 2011, down through the 94.5. That sentence, I don't believe is needed any longer because the next sentence then picks up the newest time frame.
All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Do we want to put in, capture $20 million from the penitentiary fund to help fund these positions? Okay. So,
Mr. Chairman, I would move the proposed ideas that we had worked on during the public comment period.
yeah, so just to reconfirm, Matt, why don't you tell us what the motion is?
Here's what I got, Mr. Chairman, starting on line 9. New sentence after 100,000. From and after January 2nd, 2023, each district attorney shall receive an annual salary of not less than $100,000 per year and no greater than the salary authorized for a circuit court judge in WS 51110 as determined by the legislature.
All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, that motion carries. On page 3, line 15, strike district court and insert circuit court. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, the motion carries. Anything else? All right. Okay, we'll leave it open so that these two can vote. They can sign off on it. Okay, roll call. Thanks, Matt. Yep, please.
I was just clarifying. Let's see. Representative Kinner left an I vote. And Representative Larson left an I vote. Representative Schwartz. Representative Simpson.
Aye.
Representative Stith.
Aye.
Representative Walters. Chairman Nicholas.
All right.
All ayes. You pass as amended.
Good. Okay, next we have House Bill 96. This is the official state salaries. Any comments on this? In terms of the amounts? Are we comfortable with them?
Mr. Chairman,
Kind of want to reduce the treasury down a little bit.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, go ahead.
how do these timeframes kick in? Is it the next election, or does one of these people that's currently in the position have to leave the position before?
It has to happen.
Mr. Chairman, because of this way the cycle for the election works, all 5 of these members will have stood for a reelection before the pay increase would go into effect. If that answers your question.
So if a governor is elected this summer, or it doesn't matter if it's a new or old governor, they will get the new pay increase? Okay, thank you.
And same for the other 4 positions.
Okay. Any further discussion? Any public comment? Morning.
Just like to give a few public comments about the concerns of our members that since this was introduced, sorry, first time testifying. So, the members are concerned, although granted, this is needed. I mean, I did a salary comparison. One of my members did a salary comparison for the governor position alone, and it is drastically down. Same with district attorneys, same with county attorneys, also with the same state employees. But the optics of this for the boots on the ground is not great right now, because I've had members telling me that they're going to leave because it's hard to justify a 40 or 30, I think it's 38% pay increase for the governor, although warranted by all means, and we're not opposing it. What I'm saying is the optics for those boots on the ground folks, and with the 3 to 5% that is currently proposed for state employees, I have a fear that this is going to drive more of those folks away. So that is from my members.
Okay, any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Representative Stitt.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, sir, for your comments. And by the way, if you know, how does the compensation for Wyoming Highway Patrol officers now compare with, say, neighboring states, whether it's Nebraska, Colorado, Montana? I just don't know. So just curious.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Representative Stith. Comparison for the Highway Patrol, with Trooper 1, which is our incoming trooper, is 37% below the market analysis provided by A&I. But that's based off of what we believe is a 2019 number. So that's 3 years old. And if you look at the current numbers that I've been able to compile, and I apologize, I don't have all those copies to you, but I will get it to the committee. We are significantly down, more than 37%. If you look at Colorado State Patrol, we start our troopers off right around $3,500 a month. Colorado State Patrol starts theirs at over $5,000. Once our troopers get off of FTO and they have no experience, depending on where they're at in their training, they may not get to a higher pay range of up to 4 years as the current structure, which would then bump them up to roughly $5,000 a month, where a starting trooper in Colorado goes to. And then if you look at, again, Colorado's, because it's on the top of my head because they're close. Colorado trooper, as soon as they got 1 year on, they're at $7,000. That's currently more than I make a month, which I'm not complaining because I appreciate the wage that I get. But the disparities, if you look from Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, every state around us pays more, especially a year after they get out of the academy, than we do. And currently we're at 35 troopers down. We had 10 when we started the academy in January. We're down to 7. And when we talk about troopers, it's not just our troopers. Like, if you don't mind me expanding a little bit more, our dispatchers are hurting, our port of entry folks. And we can have all the troopers we want. We can pay them all that they, we can pay them like Colorado. If we don't have somebody on the other end of the line answering a radio, then we're not gonna be able to do our job. And right now, unfortunately, and I'm not trying to be dramatic, but of the 21 years that I've been doing this, we are at critical mass. We are. So.
And to add to that, last night when I went to dinner, I received similar comments, but not done in quite so diplomatic a fashion.
Well, we appreciate what your issue is, but it's not germane to the bill.
Correct, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. you bring up a good point of the optics and if it's 35% or whatever this pay increase is, that's in this bill. It was last increased in 98 or 2000 or something like that. So would you say your pay has gone up 38% in the last 20 years? Or would a trooper's pay over a 20-year period go up that much in their career? Will their pay go up that much? Because their career is really a lot of them, it's a 20-year career because they get out after 20 years because of the retirement side of things, And so
Yeah.
would a trooper's pay over 20 years increase 35%? I don't know the answer I'm asking.
Chairman, thank you. Representative Walters, that is a very good question. It would be based off of current pay studies, which I know they don't necessarily do with the elected officials. There is a good chance that they could go up over that 20 years if they stayed with the agency. My pay increase as you move up in rank has gone up, but you had mentioned that they haven't the elected officials haven't seen a pay raise since 2001-ish. 2002, a long time, right? I guess the thing that I would like the committee to understand is, I would like to see that all of our elected officials receive the same, look at to raise that pay for them. But the boots on the ground folks, we really, if you go back and you look at an actual pay raise for state employees, and I'm not just talking the Wyoming Highway Patrol, I'm talking state employees, was in 2009. To where we,
That's actually not correct.
okay, what is it, sir?
So we've given, I think the last pay raise, we did a 3% in 2016. But in addition to that, we've increased our contribution to retirement. We beefed up your retirement account, and we've helped pay added cost to your health insurance. So we've done numerous different things to try to shore up your.
Chairman Nichols, thank you, sir. I agree. You have given the members, the state pay raises and to where it comes as a percentage rate. And I won't deny that. But if you also look at what on the backside of that, we've had to pay more into our retirement as well as insurance, which actually we had a 2.5%. But if you really add it up, the increases went up 3%.
Well, I understand that, but that's because the price of insurance went up, and we paid half of it and had you guys pay part of it.
Mhm.
So in essence, you got a pay increase then because we had to pay more. And the same with your retirement component of it. I mean, and you're no different than the other state employee. I mean,
Mhm.
the fact was we couldn't afford to get pay raises.
And
And we tried to eat as much as we could on your health insurance. But, health insurance was going up 10% a year on a consistent basis. And so we were both suffering under that.
Yeah, Chairman Nichols, there's no doubt. There's no doubt in my mind that the state of Wyoming was doing their best during the lean times to take care of their employees. And if you look at the employee and what they take home now compared to what they take home in 2010, they're actually taking home less because of those. And I guess one of the things that as a representative of the association is, a lot of our members have stuck through those lean times. They have. And when we get to where there's more money, we get very little of that 35% pay increase, or even a good study that shows that where we can pull up into MPP.
And I think we sympathize with the concept that you ought to get market rate
Mhm.
for what you do, because it's not a fun job. I think it's fun when you guys pull me over because you get a laugh. Go ahead, Representative.
Mr. Chairman. Sergeant, we understand the optics.
Mhm.
We encourage you to talk to your members and ask them to be patient. We're doing all we can on the side to help them. This really is a separate subject. You indicated you've done the market analysis. It's embarrassing for us, for our top 5 elected officials to be as low as we are. So, and I wanted to correct one other statistic you threw on the table. The average proposed salary increase for all state employees, the average is 5.0%. So an average means that some employees will get 0 and some will get 10 to 15%. And the trooper ones, because according to PowerPoint presentation we had, they're so far low on the table, they're going to be up in that higher echelon of percent increases. So we encourage your people to be patient. They can chastise us if our efforts fail, but we're sympathetic to your members' cause.
Chairman, Representative Simpson, thank you very much. And that's exactly the message I have been pushing to them. Because I have said they are low too. County attorneys are low. And I keep telling them this is going to take some time. But it still stings on the back end. But I do appreciate it and I do push that message to them. They just wanted to make sure that they were heard. So thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, one sort of follow on. And this may or may not help you explain it. I don't know, but it'd be something interesting for me to know, similar to Representative Walter's question. But if you could somehow go back and find out what the starting wage for Trooper 1 was in 2002.
Okay.
And then that might give us a little bit of more apples and apples.
Okay.
So if it was 3,000, okay, but if it was 2,500 or something, then we might be able to say, okay, we don't like where we are, but at least we're trying to do sort of the same thing. So,
Yeah.
okay.
I want to say it's right around that 2,000. Sorry. Get the. Okay. Yes, sir. I will find that.
Over the last 4 years, the Department of Corrections has come before appropriations at least 3 times.
Mhm.
Because they literally, particularly in Rawlins, they could not get sufficient staff. And so I think in addition to the pay raise that they're getting now, I think twice we've increased pay raises for, and we actually made a tiered rate paying those in Rawlins more than the ones in Liberty because they were hard. So you're in the same boat. I mean, your obligation is to come before us and your other fellow legislators around the state that your patrolman can talk to and say, look, we're not getting paid enough. Beat the drum because that'll make a difference.
Yeah, Chairman, thank you very much for the words of wisdom for that. And that's definitely what we're pushing out. And, you know, this is kind of new to us. We don't typically voice our opinion, but we're hurting. And that's why we're doing it now.
Well, we appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Moved by Representative Walters, seconded by Representative Kinner. Any amendments? Any other action? Roll call.
Representative Kinner,
Aye.
Mr. Larson left an aye vote. Representative Schwartz. Representative Simpson.
Aye.
Representative Stith.
Aye.
Representative Walters. And Chairman Nicholas.
Aye.
All ayes do pass.
Okay. So let's close the meeting. Don't leave yet.